Hey everyone, I know it's been quite a while since I've made a video, but instead of dwelling about what's been going on, let's focus at Crash Team Racing Nitro Fueled. And of course, I have to thank the good folks at Screenwave Media for supplying me a code. So thank you very much, guys. I'm a casual fan of the original CTR. I don't think it's the best kart racing game of all time, but as a kid I liked it, and it was the only option for me when I was younger since I didn't play Mario Kart or Diddy Kong Racing growing up. So for Nitro Fuel, I obviously expected a shiny coat of paint, and the game looks absolutely terrific. I like all different graphical flourishes to the different tracks. Just every time a race starts, you can look at those tiny little details that the developers put in. Hot Air Skyway in particular was always my favorite track from the original game, and in Nitro Fuel they kind of gave it this casino feel, sort of tying it in with pinstripes since this is where you race against them. So I really like that, and I think the game looks absolutely terrific. I do wish the game ran at 60 frames per second, which I understand why it doesn't on the Switch version, but it's weird that it doesn't do it on the PS4 Pro. Like, you think the console will be strong enough to do it, but it's such a nitpick that I'm not really gonna take any points of. As for the game itself, it's pretty much CTR as you remember it from back in the day. It does have some elements from Nitro Kart, specifically the boosting system, because you have to use the boost as close as it is to the end of the bar to get as much speed as possible, because if you get past that, you lose your boost and you slow down, which is obviously not good. So that's a different mechanic than Mario Kart or, say, the Sega Sonic Racing games. It took me a while to get grasp of it, and doing all the time trials in this game is incredibly difficult. I'm the kind of person that when I see people get like platinum relics in Crash Insane Trilogy, my mouth is agape, because I struggled just getting all the gold relics, let alone platinums. And going into CTR and trying to just defeat the Entropy Ghost, even before Nitrous Oxide, that was... Oh god, I think I got carpal tunnel syndrome on my hands the entire time I was trying to do that. I'm not saying it makes the game bad, it's just... unlocking all the characters is much more difficult this time because you don't have a cheat code that does that. You have to actually work really hard to unlock Entropy. And I did, and I'm proud that I did. It's just that, was it worth the strain on my hand? Probably, because then I can say I actually did it and I have a visual proof to show everyone that I did. The only problem is that I did on my PS4 version, and I have the Switch version too, and I kind of wish I can unlock both of them at the same time, but god, not today. Not today. Other things that I also want to commend Beanox for this is obviously including all the tracks from Crash Nitro Kart as well, which is really cool. Maybe I have a small gripe that game had a lot of anti-grav elements, very similar to Mario Kart 8, and they had to be removed from the Nitro Fueled remake. That's actually why the game is called Nitro Fueled, haha. And it's kind of sad, because some tracks like Out of Time in the original Nitro Kart were pretty cool, because you get to like drive up a clock tower, and I thought it was a really neat idea. And that was sort of taken out, and instead you kind of go inside the clock tower, and there's this tree inside, which that's a pretty cool element. It's just, I don't know, I kind of wish it was there, but again, I am not the kind of person who would buy the hand that feeds me, because I was going into this game thinking I'm only gonna have the tracks from Crash Team Racing. I was not expecting anything from Nitro Kart, so that was pretty cool. And of course some elements from Tag Team Racing as well, which for the record, I never played Tag Team Racing because it never looked interesting to me, so I skipped that one. And of course, there's Adventure Mode, which you can pick a character, and you can actually change between characters if you go with the Nitro Fueled setting, which is really nice. And you can also change your class, so you can choose whichever character you want, and also change the vehicle class, since it's not designated just to one character. So Tiny Tiger can not just be a speed character, you can also use acceleration or handling and so on and so forth. But of course, if there is one thing I want to talk about, is obviously the online and the whole thing with the microtransactions. And as much as I do love this game, it does put a damper on the whole package, because just buying stuff is extremely expensive. You don't really get enough Wampa coins to get anything, which kind of forces you to go to the route of the microtransactions. And I would be more fine with it if we, the consumers, were let know of that from the get-go, instead of basically having the rug pull under our legs about a month or so after the game's release. I could go on and on about it, but honestly, my good buddy Goldenbolt explained the situation way better than I ever could. So I don't really despise the game because of that, but it is something important to bring up. I have a personal issue myself that's away from this subject, and that's online play. And I'm not gonna say that it's laggy or anything, or I couldn't find anyone to play with, but there's a very major gap between those who are good at this game to those who are just starting out, or those who are just maybe casual. Like I said, I managed to get all the entropy time trials done, which is incredibly difficult to do. But there are people out there who managed to do the nitrous oxide trials, and they're even on a different god tier altogether. So when I find myself doing a race, and I basically see that first place crossed the finish line about 40 seconds before I got there, and I'm second place, there's something wrong. Especially when first place crosses the finish line, the timer goes down, by 30 seconds to make sure the game doesn't stretch too long, which I get it, but on the other hand, it can be so humiliating, because there's one person who's just better than everyone else, and even when I think I did really well, I just don't even finish the race, even if I'm second place, and that sucks, because I don't even see that happening even in something like Mario Kart. Like, even if I get second place, I find myself like just a few seconds tops away from the first place. There's always a way to sort of catch up to whoever's at the lead. But for some reason, I've noticed that there's some items from the multiplayer that are just not as common, like the warp gate from Crash 3 that used to basically attack every enemy in front of you if you have all the Wumpa fruits collected. I don't see it as much anymore since the game has been patched. So it's really hard to take down the first place, especially since everyone before that individual keeps attacking each other, so it makes it even more difficult. But I don't want to be a Debbie Downer, because I always like to preach that games should be positive, and I don't want to just mention negative stuff when it comes to the online, because I do want to give one major credit here, and that's the post-game DLC, because as much as people are upset about the idea that there are microtransactions, all the content we got post-launch was, in fact, free. Sure, some characters or car skins or whatever are locked behind the Wampa coins, but the tracks are all available from the get-go, and I would say that the vast majority of them are some of the best in the entire game. Up until this point, we got about 5 of them, and I enjoyed pretty much all of them equally. From Twilight Tour, which is kind of like a fusion of the Egyptian levels, and the Arabian Nights levels from Crash 3, which is really cool. The prehistoric level is pretty sick. Nina's Nightmare from Halloween last month, that was pretty cool. Even though I'm not a big fan of Nina Cortex, I mean, her track is pretty sweet. And Koala Carnival, that's literally out now. It's probably my favorite of the new tracks, just because it's a very simple design where there's a lot going on, and I love, complexity and simplicity, for lack of a better term. And of course, there's one track I haven't mentioned yet, which is, of course, the Spyro Circuit. And wow, I think it's called Dragon Worms. I think that's the actual name for it. But just the idea that we have Spyro characters in a Crash Bandicoot game that's not an actual cameo, like Spyro is playable in Crash, that's just amazing. And the track itself is really cool, like just going through some of the areas from the first game, just, oh my god. I mean, if that, again, I don't want to bite the hand that feeds me, and the fact they did this to us where they didn't even need to include all those extra tracks or those new characters to play as. I mean, it's just cool to see Embryo playable in Crash Team Racing or Koala Kong. I mean, I think as consumers, we have the right to be upset, and I'm not happy about it, but I'm just the kind of person who would like to look at the fuller half of the glass, and I don't want to blame everyone at Activision and Beanox for this. because at the end of the day, I do still enjoy this game. It's not my favorite kart racer, but I do still think it's a much better game than Team Sonic Racing that I immediately forgot after this game came out. So yeah, at the end of the day, I still highly recommend this game. If you can get past some of the murky practices, I think you'll have a lot of fun, especially if you have friends to play with. I wish that the online was a bit more merciful, that you can get my butt kicked every single time. But when it comes to local multiplayer, even doing the battle mode, it's pretty fun. So that's it for me. Thank you very much for watching, guys, and I'll see you soon. Take care.